Hey there everyone! Today we are going to start with my guides on how to do Gen 6 RNG, and I'm going to start again with the trainer IDs because that's the first thing you can RNG in the games. But I'm going to split it into two videos. This one is going to cover trainer ID for X and Y, and then I'll do another video that is for Omega Ruby or Alpha Sapphire, because those two are completely different in how you actually manipulate the RNG for them. So I'll save you some time. So I've already connected my RNG tool, and you can already see now that we have quite a bit of different information up on the screen, and that's because we're looking at Gen 6, we're not looking at Gen 7 anymore. So, got things up to date. So initial seeds, basically the same thing with the initial seeds. You've got frame. Now thankfully, for the most part, you don't have to worry too much about frame when it comes to the ID part of things, and then your current seed, whatever. Now down here, this is our tiny MT seeds, 4 little pockets of agony. And let's go ahead, and I'm going to bring up the RNG tool right now, and alright, so I'm going to bring it. Said I'm going to bring it up. There we go. Alright, so we're going to set our value to X. We're in Pokemon X. We don't have a trainer shiny value here. You don't even need to worry about the seed because it doesn't matter at all for this. What matters, you can see right here, is the tiny MT seeds here. So that is what determines what ID you'll get. So let's also bring up, I'm going to hide this particular RNG thing because we don't need to see parties or anything like that right now. But yeah, so I'm going to hide that, and we're going to bring up the Tiny MT tool. Here we go, Tiny MT, and that has Tiny Timeline tool, rather, sorry. But this has a whole bunch of different things, and you're going to want to set it to XY ID RNG. But we're not going to actually bother with generating it right now because we need to get further along. So let's hide our tool, we're going to start the game, begin, hop on in, and we're going to let Professor Sycamore just, he's so dreamy. Just look at him for a little while, and he'll explain Pokemon and how that all works in his, I assume, outrageous French accent. I'm just going to speed up because we don't... Yeah. Alright, so yeah, we see this whole mural and everything. We get through. Now, unlike Gen 7 RNG, where you had to kind of pick your player and everything, and then you kept saying no, you won't be saying no. So pick whatever you want your final character to look like. Here we go. And do your name, because you're not going to be saying no. Alright. We view this, and he's going to say, did I get that right? Say yes. And this. Stop it right here. This is your final screen before the ID is generated. When you hit A, it's going to go forward and generate your ID. So, now we actually need to get into the whole Tiny MT thing. So, we have our tool, and I'm just going to leave the Tiny Timeline tool up. We don't actually need the whole RNG process just yet. So let's go ahead and let me find it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to copy our seeds into Tiny MT. Now, at the end of this, I'm going to show you what it's like on an actual 3DS, because there is something called NTR Helper, and that will make your life a lot easier. And it's going to play a huge role in ORAS, but we'll get to that in time. Anyways, let's bring up our Tiny Timeline tool. So here we go, we got our RNG, we've got our seeds here, and we just copy and paste them in order into the tool. So first off, we have to calibrate. we have to calibrate this, because if we don't calibrate it, things won't work right. So, how do you calibrate it? By doing some advances. So, you just keep advancing this until the tiny MT seeds change, which might be a couple of frames, it might be a bunch, but you have to kind of be on top of it. Now, one thing to note here is if you're using, oh, that was 22623 was when it changed. Alright, so you want to put in 22622. You want to put in the frame before it changed. And we're going to have to do this, repeat this 3 more times. But you'll note that in Gen 6, and if you're using the Citra RNG, it advances, every advance it goes up by 1 frame, but that's not how the RNG in the actual game works. It goes up by multiples of 2. So you either be odd frames or even frames. If you're using a 3DS and PCalc, that won't be a problem, but you kind of have to know when you're RNGing later on whether you're on odd or even frames. And there is an easy way to switch if you are odd. All you have to do is save the game and you'll switch to even. Anyways, we just advance. I'm going to do a few more advances here, speed things up a little bit. But we want to get as close as possible. There's some wiggle room. Oh, okay. I'm going to say that was 22696 is when it changed. Again, you want to be close, but there's some wiggle room, and we'll see that later. Alright, do this again. So yeah, this is annoying, but I'll show you on a 3DS. You can actually use NTR Helper to do calibration for you automatically, and that saves you a lot of time. Okay. 22788. I think we'll go with that. 22788. Alright, one more of these, and then we can we're actually calibrated and we're ready to go. I'm gonna hit create here just to. Oh, right. Don't consider delay. Yeah, because if you hit the consider delay button, we're going to use this later on, but that'll cause issues if you don't. Yes, that looks good so far. Alright, one more advance. Ignore the actual, the rest of it, because that won't be correct, but kinda have to get there. Music is very somber when it's this slow. Very, very slow advance. Okay. 22946. We're gonna say that. Alright. We finally calibrated it. Hit create. So this will give you a roughly good idea of your timeline. Now, finally, we can actually bring up our RNG tool itself and import in these TinyMT and find an ID that we want. So let's see. I've got first off, we have to copy these seeds in, because if we don't, we will get the wrong ID. Because again, the ID is 100% reliant on the TinyMT seeds, and you'll see this happens a lot in the game. Whatever things rely a lot on TinyMT. All right, so now we actually have. You can see our tiny state listed here, and then you see a frame, and then you can see what IDs you get. So I will just say, I will go for this ID right here, frame 23. And you're like, okay, frame 23. Oh, that's great. You just go up. Well, wait. What does frame 23 mean? Well, let's go back over to this tool right here, the tiny timeline tool. This index corresponds to this frame right here. So this gives you the rough actual frame counts of what actual frame you will be at to get. So this frame corresponds to this frame, which corresponds to this index, which corresponds to this index. Oh boy. So anyways, so if I want to hit index 23, we have to get somewhere in this range, which is quite a large range. You can see it's 122 frame range. So you're not in a state where you have to be frame perfect. So we have to be somewhere in the range of 24,608 to 24,721. Great. Except it takes about 724 frames to reach that point. So you have to actually do some math here, and I'm going to not trust myself with math, but I'm going to go ahead and 24,608 minus 724, 23,884. That's where things will start. So I'm going to just aim for 23,900, which should be well within the range. So we're going to advance to frame 23,900, and then we will hit A, and hopefully everything will line up and we'll get the ID we wanted, which in this case is the trainer ID is 25041, secret ID 10435, and the trainer ID value of 1169. Nice. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to advance a bit. And I've sped it up. I chose something really close, but you can see that this could easily be like potentially millions of frames here. Like this only gets to index 99 and they're already up to 31. We're already up to frame 31,000. So when you're RNGing, if you calibrate and you see that the ID you want is like index like frame 1000, just restart, get a new seed, and do it again, because it'll take you a long time. I mean, when I first did this, I remember I RNG'd a specific trainer ID, and I had to leave my DS on, my 3DS on for 14 hours to get to the right frame in order to do it. And I will tell you in advance that if you're doing it on Citra, that won't work, because once this hits frame 1 million or so, it won't work anymore. The tool won't work anymore. Or maybe it's like 10 million. Either way, once it gets to a certain frame range, the tool itself gets really buggy. So, right. We're doing this here. 23,900. But we thankfully we're not like super have to be super advanced, super exact here. Like 23,902 should still work. All right, so here we go. We're at what I assume is the right frame. What I think is the right frame, and we're going to go ahead and hold A and advance. And you're going to see TinyMT instantly shifts, but we want in the end, right before our ID is generated, to have the same TinyMT as this index here. So we want it to be like E7 whatever. A whole bunch of hexadecimal. That's how we'll know that we did it right. Alright, so okay, let's just continue on. We already hit A, it's out of our hands now. Alright, advances. D1. Ah! Doesn't look like it got right. Looks like I messed up something somewhere along the line. Because you can see that the TinyMT is wrong. So I'm probably going to have to redo this whole section here and show it to y'all again. Oh boy, where's my tool? Alright, so I wanted the ID of 25... Oh no, I got it! We got it! We're good! What happened was my... I see now, my Citra RNG tool stopped updating in the middle of all that. But as you can see here, we were in fact successful. We did get the trainer ID that we wanted. I'll lower this a little bit here. So you can see, yeah, 25,000 25041, 25041. So yeah, that's how you RNG with Citra, and I'll show you 3DS next. It's roughly the same, except you can calibrate, so it saves you a little bit of time and energy there. But yeah, that's all there is to it. Just be aware, you're going to have to reset your seed quite a bit to get a desired trainer ID, just because you want it to fall within somewhere in the first, say, 100 frames of your seed, or else it'll just take far too long. But if you're willing to wait, more power to you. I support you. Just letting you know. Alright, so let's take a minute and I'll switch over to my 3DS and show you that. Here we are. We have our 3DS set up. We have our tiny timeline tool set up as well. And I've already got NTR started. I have to get NTR started because that's how I stream to a 3DS. But for your knowledge, you just the thing that I'm already highlighting, you would load that up before you start the game. Make sure that you have, open up your menu here, debugger, have the debugger enabled. You can also see the IP address of your 3DS because that's going to be necessary. Alright, so now we're going to load up our game for Gen 6. And while you're loading it up, hold the left arrow. Now, you can't see this on the stream, but on your 3DS you'll see it blink 3 times. The top screen will blink 3 times. And now just go over to this tool right here. This is our NTR Helper, which is available through the 3DS tools. Just go to Tools, NTR Helper, and put in your 3DS's IP address and click this one-click button. It'll say console connected, breakpoint set, and now we'll start loading. And you can see here we've got pcalc in the upper right-hand corner here. We have our initial seed, we have our frame, we also have our tiny MT seeds as well. And what this whole NTR Helper thing does, it allows you to connect the 3DS tool to your 3DS and allow it to calibrate, which will speed up the process significantly. So here we go. We're just going to go ahead and begin our game. And honestly, you don't even need to have this up right now. Boom, gone. But you can also bring it back if you want. I'm gonna put it away because it also makes things a little slower. But yeah, we have to get through our normal whole Professor Sycamore spiel. And he's gonna tell us all about the world of Pokemon while being very dreamy and having fantastic hair. I really love the aesthetic of Gen 6. This mural's great. How did he get there? I don't know. Okay, so here you go. You're going to go through this pretty much the same as you were doing it before. What do you look like? What's your name? And we'll just enter our name. Looking for the Y. It's a QWERTY. I always get mixed up. There we go. Alright. So, say yes, and now make sure you don't hit A anymore, because you want to wait. So, I'm going to pause it right here. Also, I'm going to bring up this again. Okay, so, now on NTR Helper, you've already got this. You can ignore the whole ID bot thing. Don't worry about it. Forget about it entirely. Anyways, so now we're going to bring up our RNG tool. And I'm going to lower it down here for now so that you can still see the tiny MT seeds and everything. So now you can click this lovely I'm lazy button. Actually, yeah, I'm lazy, which brings up your tiny timeline tool. And now you just hit on it, calibrate. So you can see it instantly updated the seeds here with what we're showing on the 3DS, and it also updated this too. Well, no, it hasn't actually updated that yet, so ignore that. Now it says stop right here. We don't have to worry about it. Start up your game again. You'll see it. It'll advance, and you see right here, it's automatically, whenever the tiny MT advances, it fills in all that information for us. So great. Now let's stop. Let's create. So now we have our tiny timeline already set. And it also put it into your tool as well with the starting ones, so you can go ahead and calculate out. No, we don't want to. Yeah, we don't. You want to ignore the whole this frame thing, because that will not be right. Because you see index 0, frame 0. That's what you want. So let's go ahead and we can advance normally to whatever trainer ID you want. And from here, it's exactly the same as if you're doing it on Citra. You're just gonna, again, subtract 724 so that you make sure you get in the right range, and then you hit A, and then you're golden. You'll hopefully get whatever ID you want. There is a little bit more delay on a 3DS, just keep that in mind, but that's all there is to it. And you can see that doing it on a 3DS is actually significantly easier, because this pcalc is not going to bug out on you after a certain number of frames. Like I said, I had it on for 14 hours to get the ID I wanted. So let's just put in here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that's not occurring. Oh well. Let's put it the TSV. Okay, there we go. We can do this, but you're looking at, oh boy, 12,098 would be the index. Well, how far is that? Let's go 1,000,000 frames. Target frame is 1,000,000. We're gonna scroll down all the way on this tool. I lost my window. Scroll down all the way to the bottom, and this is frame. This is index 1199, and you're looking at frame 114227. So that's not even frame 1,000,000. And you're still nowhere near even. Yeah. So yeah, you're looking at something like 1,000,000 frames to reach that specific TSV. So just keep in mind, just restart. It's not that big a deal. Let's try another one. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay. 1790, that's significantly better, but even then, 1790 is still higher than 100,000 frames. So, again, please don't worry about it too much. Restart often. Every time you restart, you will get a different initial seed. You'll eventually get something that's somewhat more palatable. Just keep that in mind. So yeah, that's all there is to Gen 6 for XY ID RNG manipulation. Next up in the companion video to this, I'll release it at the same time. I'll show Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and that is different. And I'll just come out and say it right now. With this one, with those games, TinyMT advances in a completely different way, and it isn't tied to your frame at all. So, again, it's going to be easier to do it on an actual 3DS than it was in Citra, but that's because of this ID bot over here. And we'll get into that one next time. I will see you later.